always a process. I mean, it's dynamic. I mean, it's always a discussion. There's always a dialogue about halachic kinds of things. I mean, we're doing, but we're also talking about it. I mean, it's also, I mean, it's a discourse. I mean, every page of Talmud is a discourse, is a dialogue, is, you know, half the time it's an unresolved argument, unresolved dispute.
I love this question, because he asked, do you believe for every question there's an absolute answer? No. Then why do you do some things blindly? Because I bet that you blindly stop at red lights. Blindly. Well, I bet you stop at red lights when you're driving. I bet you stop.
Most of the time, I do.
I mean, yeah. I bet when you see a police officer driving beside you, you slow down.
Because I know that somebody might get hurt if I don't. I mean, that's...
I mean, I blindly flush the toilet every time I use it, and then I blindly wash my hands. I mean, I blindly say thank you whenever anyone does anything for me. I have been inculcated into lots of behaviors that I do automatically. I'd use automatically rather than blindly, because, like, to be a great golf player or a great tennis player or a great football player, you learn to react automatically to certain stimuli, because in real life there's often not a whole lot of time. Like if someone menacing, suddenly showed up in my garden right there, I wouldn't go, I wonder what Emmanuel Levinas would say about dialogue with a menacing man in my garden. No, I'd go get my gun. So, I mean, in real life, there isn't often not time for philosophical contemplation, or even when there is time, it's not an economical use of your time to philosophically contemplate before everything you do. Some actions need to be automatic. That's just how life is.
Right, but what always has to precede a philosophical debate is taking care of oneself. If you don't protect yourself, you can't have that philosophical debate. So,
right.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. I think that's what Levinas would say.
In what areas did you feel more free as a Christian, and what areas do you feel more free as a Jew?
Oh, as a Jew, more, I mean, intellectual...
it's a lot more intellectual freedom as a Jew.
Judaism is so much more cerebral and intellectual than most manifestations of Christianity. I want to say all, but I don't think that's accurate. And I think Casey
there's certainly
with me too.
There's certainly intellectual components to Christianity, but it is a religion that says you should come to God like a little child. Jesus says, suffer the little children, come unto me. This is the attitude, you come as a little child. There's nothing in 4,000 years of Judaism saying you should come to God like a little child.
No.
So Christianity is something that can be grasped in an instant. How is Christianity able to be grasped in an instant? Right. Because it takes a childlike faith that, God died for my sins.
Well, it puts this God of children up in the heavens, whereas Judaism demands that we see a God of adults, which is a God that asks us to be responsible and not rely on him to dole out rewards and punishments based on what we do.
Why does God allow things to happen that we as people would never allow if we had the power? That's the question from the chat room, don't blame me.
Well, I am a Taurus age, so if you're ready for my answer.
Yes.
We do have the power. I mean, we have more power than God in some ways. And that's the way that God has set it up, I think. So.
And why God would create a world where there are hurricanes and 8.8 earthquakes, I'm not sure, but he has also created a world where we can have really rigorous building codes so that we're far more likely to survive such earthquakes and hurricanes. And he's also created a world where we can go to the rescue of people who are hit by such hurricanes, earthquakes. But he still also creates a world where 3-year-old kids get cancer. My friend Neil Dublinsky recently died of lung cancer. Age 47, he never smoked in his life, and he died of lung cancer at age 47. My best friend Kathy Seib died of lung cancer at age 47 about 3 years ago. So why does God create a world where good people suffer unjustly? well, what's the alternative? That if you're a righteous person, you never suffer? That if a righteous person walks out into a dark night, that's cold and rainy, that he won't get cold? That's, totally unfathomable. Should we create a world where righteous people never catch cancer, where genes don't mutate and cells don't metastasize? If you're a righteous person, that's also unthinkable. So I don't really see a lot of alternative. Sounds like there is some faith-based practice then in Judaism. You're just targeting the word faith as a flag word unfairly. We're only targeting because it's the dominant word that Christians use to describe their religion, and then they try to tag our religion with their same methodology and terminology. Faith is not the primary thing in Judaism. Just because we say it's not primary doesn't mean it's not important. It is important to have faith in God. But how do you show you have faith in God? The Torah makes very clear the way you remember God is by doing His commandments. So that means the way you forget God is by not doing His commandments. So you can say, I believe, I believe, I believe, and play inspiring CDs of religious music all day long, but if you don't observe the commandments, you're not remembering God. You can say, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God. If you put on tefillin, keep kosher, keep Sabbath, keep the holidays, give tzedakah, and lead an observant Jewish life, you're remembering God, even if you say, oh, I don't believe. So what shows that you believe or don't believe is how you live your life, not the professions of philosophical faith.
It's just a difference in filters. And I think Christians see all religious communities through the filter of faith. That's the context. I mean, it's not to say that faith isn't a part of Judaism, because it is. It's just not the primary focus.
Maybe the only difference is that Jews have convinced themselves that there is a certain answer. So if you follow along, eventually you will reach the truth.
No, that's Christianity. I mean, to a T. Because I have yet to find an answer in Torah. That's why I keep reading it. New Testament, there's an answer. Jesus is the way.
I love this Pasha, and I love this Torah, for among other things. It says, certain places, show no mercy, don't be compassionate. I love that, because we're in such like a compassion bombing society. It's like, be compassionate is like the watchword of our society today. So, chapter 19, verse 13, you catch someone who's a murderer, your eye shall not pity him, you shall remove the guilt of the innocent one's blood from Israel, and it shall be good for you. So don't pity the murderer, put him to death, show him no mercy, don't be compassionate, kill him, and it will be good for you. I dig that.
But remember, all of these other conditions have to be met before this can happen. And again, a lot of these conditions are virtually impossible to meet. So, I mean, you have to read it in the context of the structure that's already been established for judgment. Yeah, so you shall burn out the innocent blood from Israel, and it will be well with you.
Isn't that awesome? That is so hardcore.
There's an exclamation point here in the Torah. Your eye is not to take pity on him! Exclamation point.
I mean, because when you see, it's like, remember when President Bush mocked that woman that when he was governor of Texas, and I think he turned down every appeal, capital punishment appeal while he was governor, and there was this one woman, and he mocked her and said, "Please don't kill me." That's kind of in concert with this. I dig this. It's so funny. It's like it's so un-PC.
It is. Well, this is interesting. The next verse 14, you are not to move back the border of your neighbor that the first ones set as border in your inheritance that you inherit in the land that Yehovah your God is giving you to possess. It's timely.
Guest 28 said, so far all I hear is blah, 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 all heard before. What makes you so special?
I'm wearing a great black dress. I don't know.
And I pointed out we're God's chosen one. So once again, I made this announcement at the beginning. I'm going to repeat it now. I need for you Gentiles to go to the back of the chat room and to only bother us with your